Thank you, Sophie. Downside to me muting my mic. I was typing some stuff and I got some very loud clickety clacky keyboard. Kind of hear it right there, and that's not even me being dramatic about it. So let's backtrack a little bit. So first thing is going to be college football, or really just college sports in general, because there was a $2.8 billion settlement that was finalized on Friday for all Division I athletes. There will be no question on whether or not these students are going to be receiving any sort of money. Now, with this settlement in place, this will start this season, but there will be a back pay dating all the way back to 2016 because they felt that there was enough, according to the evidence that was provided, that students starting back in 2016 were having to find alternative ways to get paid for their name, image, and likeness. Now, moving forward, there will be a cap space per school, and roughly that will be about $20.5 million per university. And like I stated, that will start this year for the 2025-26 season. But that will increase each year in this decade-long deal. Now, this money is in addition to scholarships and other benefits for the athletes that they already receive, such as NIL deals. So, some of these athletes will still be able to get a decent amount of money for their name, image, and likeness. So by all means, they are getting plenty of money, way more than they would have if they were playing 10 years ago. But speaking of the college landscape, there hasn't been a lot of transfers that have been going around, but there was one for the Utah Utes with Jelani Davis, who is a freshman safety, and he transferred from Utah to Montana University. So he's going to be a part of that Grizzly squad. Granted, there is a lot of changes for the University of Utah all around, so it's no shock that there's still some transfers, even though it may be minimal with one individual here and there. But it's no surprise that they are still losing athletes in the offseason. Now, going to the Salt Lake Bees, they played the Round Rock Express this past week, and they ended up finishing that series tied 3-3. But with that series, they did allow the most points in a single game this season to an opponent. The Bees, they played decently. They averaged about 5.7 runs per game, but Round Rock averaged 9 with their highest scoring game coming out in the second game with 21 runs, thanks to 5 home runs from the Express, along with 5 RBIs from Dustin Harris. Now, the Bees' next game is going to be tonight, Tuesday, June 10th, at the Las Vegas Aviators, starting at 8:05 p.m. And that pregame will start at 7:50 p.m. on the KSL Sports Zone on 97.5 FM and 1280 AM, along with the KSL Sports app if you are unable to tune in on the radio. Now, for the Utah Royals, they're coming back after a pretty forgettable May where they just were unable to get a win anywhere, but they came back facing the Racing Louisville FC. Utah started off hot with Brecken Mozingo scoring in the 3rd minute, scoring her 3rd goal in her 3rd straight game. But it would be RLFC that would even the score pretty quickly, as Emma Sears would score in the 9th minute, and then eventually Ellie Jean shortly in the 21st. Utah would then tie it up in the 31st minute with a goal from Bianca St. George, which would then lead to our halftime score being 2-2. Now, the game was looking pretty aggressive, so much so that Ana Tejada picked up 2 yellow cards and eventually earning her to a red in the 73rd minute. And that was enough motivation for RLFC to gain enough momentum to get a goal from Sarah Weber in the 85th minute, and being the final goal of the game, as Utah would lose 3-2. Now, their next game will be on Friday, June 13th, at home versus Gotham FC at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time, where pregame will start at 7 p.m. on the KSL Sports Zone on 97.5 FM, along with the KSL Sports app. Then we also have the Utah Archers, which, in my opinion, if you are a diehard hockey fan, that should be the team you should be rooting for this summer if you want to stick to your local sports. But it's a new sport, so maybe it's not for everyone. But Utah was back in action on ABC this past Saturday. This time it was against the Boston Cannons. And in the first quarter, it was looking like the game was going to get out of hand fairly quickly as Boston's Marcus Holman hit a 2-point goal. And for those of you who are not familiar with lacrosse, it is just like basketball where, everything within the arc is 2 points, but then everything outside that arc is going to be 3 points. With lacrosse, everything inside the arc is 1 point, everything outside the arc is 2 points. So Holman hit a pretty deep shot, and if you didn't get to see it, it was a gorgeous shot. Like, even though you want to support your home team, it's kind of hard not to be like, man, that was a good one. But Utah did end up going toe-to-toe with Boston in the second quarter. After being down 3-1 in the first quarter, they were able to bring it back up a tad bit, but still had the same 2-point deficit as they trailed 5-3 going into the half. Third quarter was much of the same as Utah looked to have the upper hand with 2 straight goals, but then Boston would respond with 2 goals of their own, and that would lead to our final score in the third quarter being 7-5. Now, at the 2:49 mark in the fourth quarter, Utah would get their first lead since their first goal of the game in the first quarter. And even with a Boston goal with 2 minutes left, it felt like both these teams were trying very hard not to go into overtime. I mean, I don't know about you, but for myself, even though I love a good overtime finish, overtime is very stressful, and sometimes my heart can't take it. So, unfortunately for Utah, Holman, gentleman who made the 2-point goal earlier in the game, had the last laugh scoring the game-winning goal with 2 seconds left, as Boston handed Utah their first loss of the season, 9-8. Now, their next game is going to be on Friday, June 13th, versus California Redwoods at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time on ESPN+. Again, highly recommend watching this team. They are back-to-back PLL champions, so even though they've already had a little bit of a stumble at the start of the season, I pretty much can guarantee that locker room will not stand for mediocrity, and I think California, unfortunately, will be the root end of whatever may come from this. But California is 2-0. They are one of the only undefeated teams in the PLL. So even though it's early in the season, they're still undefeated, and that still makes for a fun matchup. For other local sports that you should be paying attention to, you have the Utah Warriors for the MLR, the Major League Rugby, and it is playoff time. The Warriors will be facing the Seattle Seawolves on Saturday, June 14th at 8 p.m. Mountain Time at Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman, which they are first in the Western Conference for the MLR. And, I mean, there's going to be a great atmosphere there, especially with it being the playoffs. Another team locally that you can support. Not to mention, friends of being on the scene. You can go to Mountain Mike's over there in Harriman. It's within walking distance of the Zions Bank Stadium. So, support local business, support local teams. Everybody wins in the end. Now, for the larger teams here in the state of Utah, the Utah Jazz just hired a couple of new faces. You have the Woj of Utah, Steve Wojciechowski, and I'm pretty sure I butchered that, and there's so many letters in that last name, so I apologize if I did. But he was the Salt Lake City Stars head coach last year, and he was promoted to Will Hardy's coaching staff. He will be joining him on the bench with the Jazz this season. Then you have Marcus Newman, who is the Salt Lake City Stars general manager, was promoted to director of pro scouting for the Utah Jazz. And then you have Katie Benson, who is the Salt Lake City Stars assistant GM and coordinator of pro scouting, was promoted to the Salt Lake City Stars general manager position and will serve as the Utah Jazz's manager of pro scouting ahead of the 2025-26 season. Now, since there have been some big question marks as far as have the Jazz hit on their draft picks since they've entered the tanking era, now that you've seen that Austin Ainge has come in and started making some pretty big decisions for the organization, this is a step in the right direction, showing that changes will be made, and hopefully that will result in more wins for the Jazz. But on top of that, if you want to look forward to some gameplay and maybe some of those new players that this new scouting team is putting together, the Salt Lake City Summer League just had their tickets go on sale. It's looking like individual games are about $15 to $20 a piece, or you can buy a 3-game package for all 3 days for roughly about $50. This year, it will be at the John Huntsman Center at the University of Utah. Reason being due to the construction that is currently going on at the Delta Center, which are the renovations that are going to help with the hockey viewing experience. Now, this is going to be the first time that the Utah Jazz have played the Salt Lake City Summer League at the Huntsman Center since Donovan Mitchell was drafted. So it's definitely been a little while, but it's still a great viewing experience. If you haven't been in the Huntsman Center for a sporting event, it's electric, it'll be loud, and it's just going to be exciting to see these young players go at it and fight for these roster spots. But there are also some rumors that are starting to go around, whether it's trades, jerseys, and the trade rumors, it's mainly Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, once he opts into his player option. When it comes to those three guys, it's something that's kind of been going around the last couple of off seasons. Uh, I don't know what to make of it. I will say that it does sound like there are plenty of teams that are interested. It does sound like there is some sort of willingness to reach an agreement of some kind. But as we have seen, Utah's going to get what they want, and they aren't going to settle really for anything less. But what is that market? Who knows? Now, for the rumored jerseys, Utah's going to be rocking their new mountain look this year. Even though we've already seen the black uniforms this past season, starting in January, we will now see the all white uniforms and then the all purple uniforms, which are different than the purple uniforms you saw last season. Those were the city jerseys just for last year. But the city jerseys for this year have not been released to the public. But according to rumors, it looks like a lot of the city jerseys might be paying homage to city jerseys of years past. Because if I'm not mistaken, this year is year 10 with Nike's agreement of doing the NBA's jerseys. So they are going to highlight city jerseys of years past, or maybe just fan favorite jerseys of years past. And from what I have seen and heard, it is looking like we are going to get something similar to the Jazz's dark mode jerseys from the 2021 season that had the yellow accent up top, faded down to orange to red, and then a black base. From the rumors, it has been confirmed that there will be a black base for the city jersey with a few tweaks to the original design, which in my opinion, I think that they should go with the purple accents since you are going to the mountain design. So start with maybe a darker purple or a lighter purple up top, fade down to a darker purple until it fades into a black base, and then just have Utah across the chest. So then you are still paying homage to that dark mode jersey. But what I would really like to see with the original iteration of those city jerseys, back when Mike Conley first joined the Utah Jazz, they had a trail going down the side of the jerseys leading down to the shorts. I think it would be cool if they brought those back with said design, and instead of it making the southern hiking trails that it was alluding to, I think it'd be really cool if they turned those into skiing slopes and just had it be a white accent line down the edges. But that is my opinion. But based off of the rumors, that is how I think we are going to be seeing the city jerseys for the 2025-26 season. Now, with the other professional sport in the state of Utah, the Utah Mammoth, it's all draft conversation at this point. You know, everybody's pointing fingers on we should get this guy or we should get that guy, or why are you even talking about this person? Well, I trust our friend Cole Bagley with anything and everything he says, diving deep into any of the articles that he puts out there. And the two most recent ones that he put out there were for James Higgins and Caleb Desnoyers. Now, for me, knowing who Bill Armstrong is what his type is. It's all about size. And in this case, size matters. So I personally, knowing Bill Armstrong, I would pick size in this case, which if you compare the two, it's 6'2" over 5'11", which for some people might not be a big deal, but in the world of sports, 3 inches is going to make a large impact. So, with it being the NHL draft, though, and the way that the farm system works, anything can happen in the NHL draft. So, if you want to make a collective decision for yourself, by all means, check out what Cole Bagley is doing on the KSL Sports website. Check out all of his articles or tune into him on X. He has plenty of great work out there, even though some Calgary Flames fans might be upset with him with his voting for Dustin Wolf. But, you know, the way that I look at those awards, you are asking people that are watching this sport for every single game, and you are asking them to vote based off of what they saw. And sometimes maybe they're not able to see everything. So then they go to the stats and it doesn't match exactly what the fan base that is watching all 82 games has seen, which might be a faulty mark in the system, but to each their own. But speaking of our friend Cole Bagley, he went ahead and told me that there's going to be a very special guest on their podcast episode tomorrow, on Wednesday, June 11th. So keep an eye out for that one. He had to finish a couple of chores around the farm to be able to get onto said podcast episode. But again, they were able to pull a few strings to be able to get him onto the show tomorrow. But highly recommend tuning in. From what they've been able to tell me, it sounds like it's going to be a really awesome episode for them. And I mean, shoot, if he's putting in that much work doing his chores, he's going to put a lot of effort into promoting himself, especially with what's going on in his own life. Now, to close out being on the scene, I've mentioned it the last couple of episodes, because again, it's a cause that I think everyone should be involved in, whether you can be there personally or if you are going to be chilling on your couch and supporting that way. But the Ultimate Goalie Showdown is just a week away. Literally next week on Tuesday, I will be out and about all day covering this event. There are so many great people behind the scenes that are involved with this whole event, and I can't speak highly enough about this, like just the amount of people that have been welcoming me with open arms or just asking me how they can help with putting out great content to promote, such a great cause. So best thing that I can ask from you guys is that if you want to be a part of it, you can go to the website for the event itself, which is lackcan'tscore.com, where you can donate directly to their cause. You can find the charities that they are going to be donating to, which are Canucks for Kids and Puck Support, where Canucks for Kids is going to be helping charities in that British Columbia area that are focused mainly in children's health and wellness, building grassroots for the hockey community in British Columbia, and providing education for those that can't get to it. And then for Puck Support is for individuals within the hockey community that are struggling with their mental health and potential substance misuse. So, still 2 really great causes that I highly recommend putting some sort of research into, so then you can really understand that this is such an amazing event. But there will also be other things that are involved with it. If I'm not mistaken, you could actually make minimal bets for whether or not people are going to score or not. Still not 100% sure how to go about that one, because I know with the direct link with it, can't do it in the state of Utah. But if you're in Arizona or any other state that allows you to use that app, by all means, all of the money is going towards a great cause. As far as the split up of the donations, it will be 10% going to Tino Beckman's hockey team, which this entire event is surrounded around. And then with the remaining pot, 75% of that will go to the winner of the showdown. 25% will go to the loser of the showdown, and all of that money again will be sent to the charities of their choice. But there will also be some silent auction items that will be auctioned off during the event, whether it is in person or online. If you check out the website right now, again at lackcan'tscore.com, you will find some pretty awesome items there. One of them being a 2002 Olympics hockey puck that is signed by Olympic gold medalist Theo Fleury, who won with Team Canada along with Wayne Gretzky. You also have a game-worn Arizona Coyotes sweater by Karel Vejmelka. There's also a team-signed 2023-24 Arizona Coyotes sweater on there as well. Man, I lost my breath there for a second. But there's just a lot of really great stuff that is currently listed on there, and this auction will be open until, I believe, June 18th at midnight, so going into the 18th midnight. But again, all the money going towards a great cause. So why not get some cool stuff and make sure that your money goes to people who need it? But with that being said, that is another Bean on the Scene. I am Alma Bean, and y'all enjoy the rest of your evening.